Mobile gaming. If you're like me and grew up in the late 2000s, chances are you have played at least one of the mobile games listed here, and if you haven't, why did you click on this video? Now, these games are all classics that many consider to be among the best mobile games ever released. But what a lot of people don't know is that a majority of these games also got sequels. I mean, if Among Us Kart Racing is deserving of one, so is Jetpack Joyride. And despite the immense popularity of their original counterparts, I almost never hear these sequels being brought up when people talk about the good mobile games. So today I want to take a dive into these forgotten mobile game sequels and see if they can manage to live up to the original, or if I'm going to leave today with an immense sense of disappointment. Jetpack Joyride was probably my favorite mobile game as a kid. I have vivid memories of sitting at my cousin's soccer game, not caring what was going on, and just playing Jetpack Joyride on my dad's phone. Masterpiece of a game. The original was obviously made as an endless runner, where you would fly your jetpack trying to avoid obstacles for as long as you could until you inevitably would fall to your demise, with the goal of the game being to get as high of a score as possible. But for the sequel, they decided to go a whole different direction with this game. The core concept is still there. You fly your jetpack trying to avoid obstacles, but rather than being an endless runner like the original, Jetpack Joyride 2 focuses on level-based gameplay with a defined beginning and end to each run you do. And this new focus on levels brings a lot of interesting gameplay changes to the game. Like all good sequels, they introduced a gun. Each level has these segments where you get attacked by a horde of robots and you pull out your blaster to take them out. They also have these pickups you can grab that swaps you out with a special weapon like a flamethrower or fucking meteors. I wasn't a huge fan of this concept at first. I think at times it can kind of feel disconnected from the rest of the game since you aren't always equipped with the blaster, but it started to grow on me the longer I played, and it is pretty fun trying to take out these guys as fast as possible. This edition also introduces boss battles to the game, and I think these are pretty cool. I didn't get super far into the game, but I do imagine that they get more difficult the longer you play, and heck, I was starting to struggle a bit with them after just 30 minutes of game time. However, although the levels are the big new thing in this game, they still give you the option to play classic endless mode like in the original, but I don't think it's done as good here. It's not a bad mode by any means, but they crammed the shooting and boss segments into endless mode, which kind of throws off the pacing to me, especially since when you're up against a boss, it stops your progression meter from going up. They also made it so in this game, Barry now has a health bar compared to the one-hit kill from the original, and I think it kind of makes it so this whole game is just a lot less intense. Despite that though, when you take the whole package into account, I think Jetpack Joyride 2 is honestly a really cool evolution of the series. And I am glad that they tried something new with this game, specifically with the levels being the main focus here. Another cool thing is this game is an Apple Arcade exclusive, meaning there are no ads and no microtransactions, which is a huge selling point in my book. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's better than the original game, but it is not a bad sequel at all, and I honestly don't really know what else they could have done with it. Fruit Ninja is one that I looked at and went, how the hell do you make a sequel for this? What, you cut fruit but now with a 2 next to the name? Fruit Ninja 2 is basically just Fruit Ninja, but now with more to do, and a much heavier emphasis on in-app purchases. Yippee. The main new thing this game introduces is a PvP mode, which is actually pretty cool in my opinion. I'm not 100% sure if who I was playing against was an actual human being or a bot, but either way, it's a pretty neat idea that I think they executed well. You can even emote on your opponent, which is probably the best new addition in this game. They also have arcade mode, and this has a whole slew of games for you to play. Everything from a minigame rush to Zen mode to Guitar Hero. I honestly am a pretty big fan of all the new modes they added here. This is basically just Fruit Ninja 1, but with more to do, and in that sense, this objectively is the better game. However, the one thing really holding it back is the in-app purchases. I don't know who at Halfbrick looked at Fruit Ninja and said, you know what this game needs? A battle pass. But I don't think I want to know. This game shamelessly shoves its new monetization additions into your face. You now got loot boxes, upgradable blades, heck, you can even customize your ninja, who you never even see while you're playing the game. The monetization doesn't ruin the game by any means. I mean, you can kind of just ignore it all, but the addition of all this stuff just kind of drags down the whole experience for me, and because of that, I'd have to say that this game is on the same level as the original, but not quite better than. And if you thought there wasn't much you could do for a Fruit Ninja sequel, let me introduce you to Doodle Jump. Doodle Jump 2 is Doodle Jump, but well, actually, I think there's less in this one than in the original. Now, I admittedly never played Doodle Jump growing up as a kid. They had a download code in Starbucks for the Christmas version, so that's the version that I played. But I can tell you from my limited experience that Doodle Jump 2 is more of the same. Now, although I never played the original game, I am aware that it came with a bunch of free extra stages you could play, and some of them look pretty damn cool. But in Doodle Jump 2, the only new content it offers is just different stage themes, and they are significantly less interesting than the ones in the original game. In fact, there's so little to talk about here, I was honestly more impressed by this ad I got for Whiteout Survival. This was one of those playable demo ads. You start by defending your furnace from these polar bears, which, ignoring the illegality of killing polar bears, is pretty fun. Eventually you collect enough meat to construct a fortress. Don't ask me why meat is the currency you use to do this. And then you start getting customers looking to buy your polar bear meat. You can carry this outrageously high stack of it, and selling it gives you money, which you can then use to automate the whole process. Oh, right, Doodle Jump 2. Just play the original. This shouldn't exist. Carrying on the trends of sequels to games I didn't play as a kid, Plants vs. Zombies 2 was probably one of the best games I played for this video, and also probably the most well known. It's your standard tower defense game where you place plants who attack against hordes of zombies, and your goal is to defend, I guess the left side of the screen. There actually isn't really anything there. And although I don't have memories of playing this game as a kid, I can confidently say that I can see why people talk so highly of the series. This game has a super addicting gameplay loop in a good way. I expected it to just be a balloons type of game, but it really plays a lot differently, as your plants all have a cooldown every time you plant one, meaning you can't just spam them down, and it forces you to be extremely resourceful so you can get plants into each lane. From what I can tell, Plants vs. Zombies 2 is basically just the first game, but with more content added on. This game follows a time travel theme, so you got a bunch of variants in the types of levels you play, and there was a huge collection of plants for you to unlock. And heck, they still update this game to this day. Now, I don't think I'm in a good position to say whether the sequel is better than the original, because I don't think I've spent enough time playing either one of these games to fully know for sure. But I will say that the second game has a lot more content, and that is normally a good thing, unless if you're Cut the Rope. Cut the Rope took the idea of the first game and spun it on its head. Literally, Omnom can now spin on his head. This game adds a good amount of new ideas to the Cut the Rope formula. You're still obviously trying to feed Omnom his candy, but now you have these little buddies you meet along the way who have different mechanics that help you beat each level, and you can even move Omnom himself. These are all cool additions that I think really add to the experience, but it starts to go downhill when you look at the other things this game introduces. First of all, each level is now divided into 3 challenges for you to complete, and if you want to get all 3 medals, you have to play all 3 challenges. Now, don't get me wrong, I think having additional challenges is a great thing. It adds a ton of replay value to each level. However, these challenges get repetitive super quick, and they just don't really do anything interesting with them. They always consist of the same things, like collect a certain amount of fruit, or beat the level in a certain amount of time. It's a fine enough concept, but the way it's done just feels like a lazy excuse to pad out the length of this game. Especially because throughout the game, you hit these gates which require a certain amount of medals to continue, meaning you are forced to go back and play these challenges to earn enough medals. I think you see where I'm going here. This is made even worse by the fact this game introduces a stamina meter, so you end up wasting all your stamina on these challenges and have to wait to be able to play more levels. And this game also has a monthly subscription for some reason, costing $5 a week. You can straight up get YouTube Premium for a month and have money left over for less than it would cost to get a subscription to Cut the Rope. I don't know who in their right mind is buying this. It's not at all a bad game. It's just clear that some of the decisions here were simply made to try and increase their revenue stream, and it kind of just taints the whole experience in my opinion. However, not all hope is lost for the Cut the Rope series, as this game actually has received multiple sequels over the years, with Cut the Rope 3 releasing in 2023, and this one is a definite step up from 2. This game brings the introduction of Omnom's child, which raises questions about the Omnom universe. In this game, they completely changed up the idea, with Omnom now being a good father figure and trying to save his child from these extremely dangerous situations that they keep ending up in. Don't ask me how they winded up here, I'm wondering the same thing. And all in all, I think this is a much more interesting and well-rounded experience than Cut the Rope 2. With the candy now being replaced by a literal child, there are so many new creative ways you can interact with the world to solve puzzles, and although I'm not a huge fan of the 3D art style, it is a very cute game and I think it fits the characters well. This game also benefits heavily from being an Apple Arcade exclusive, meaning it is completely devoid of any of the monetization tactics seen in the second game, and it is a welcome change. The only real complaint I have with this game is for some reason the order you play the levels in is completely random, which doesn't really make sense to me. It makes it so there isn't really a progression of difficulty throughout the game, as the levels are all designed to be basically the same difficulty so you can play them in any order. Maybe they're just trying to make this game feel more unique by doing this, but I really only feel like it introduces problems to this game rather than actually adding anything cool. Overall though, I was pleasantly surprised by Cut the Rope 3, and it definitely is an improvement over the second. I don't think it beats the original, or heck, even the spin-offs, but it is a well-made game that I would definitely recommend. Switching gears to an entirely different genre of game, let's talk about My Singing Monsters. My Singing Monsters was one of my favorite mobile games as a kid. This was my Clash of Clans. I actually also played the sequel as a kid, and it's honestly a pretty neat game. It's actually technically a prequel, as this game called Dawn of Fire Dawnfire explores the monsters as babies before they became what they are in the original. The game almost plays exactly the same, with you breeding and feeding your monsters, although now there are a couple more steps to making food for your monsters, which I guess changes it up a bit. One thing I really like about this game is the art style. I think it is super charming. All the monster animations are done so well, and it honestly might be better than the original games. The songs here are also incredible, and once again, I think I might prefer the songs in this game over the original. The Space Island especially is hands down my favorite song in the entire series. Listen to this. My only real complaint with this game compared to the original is now the way you get monsters to other islands is by upgrading them in the main island and then teleporting them to the special islands, which I think feels a little convoluted. It doesn't ruin the game by any means, and these types of games are not really even defined by their gameplay, but I'd honestly say that Dawn of Fire is on the same level as the original, if not better than in some ways. Where's My Water was another one of my favorites as a kid, and this game also got a sequel, and I can't fully decide how I feel about it. It basically is just more levels of Where's My Water. There aren't any crazy new game ideas or any new mechanics introduced, but the core of the game is so strong that it is still fun to play. But the reason why I'm so mixed about this game is because they changed how the progression of levels work. It's similar to how Cut the Rope 2 works. There's these gates you need to unlock, which you do so by collecting ducks, and just like Cut the Rope 2, these levels have extra challenges for you to beat, which gives you more ducks, and the further you get into the game, it becomes a requirement for you to get these ducks. Now I think Where's My Water 2 is significantly better than Cut the Rope 2. Where's My Water doesn't have the stupid stamina system, so you can play and retry level as much as you want, and the challenges here are actually decently fun. They're pretty challenging. They have everything from don't touch the ducks, don't use the pipes, changing up the type of liquid you have to use, or even flipping the level upside down. But it does start to suffer the same fate as Cut the Rope 2, where it starts to feel like these challenges are just a lazy way to pad out the length of the game, as you just are replaying the same level but in different ways. The only reason I think I like the sequel of this game so much is because it allows you to play as the different characters for free, which is something you had to pay to do in the original game. So in all honesty, if you're just trying to get the full Where's My Water experience without having to pay a single cent, the sequel might actually be the better option. Temple Run 2. Where do I start? It's Temple Run. I don't know what else to say. This one went the route of the original game is good enough, so why not we just re-release it but with more content? And by all means, this game is objectively better. It's just that, Temple Run, but with more content. Most notable here is they added a bunch of different level themes. I was only able to unlock 2 of them because I didn't want to put my credit card information into this game, but the 2 that I was able to unlock had different obstacles from the main theme, so I can only assume the others follow suit. And this is a cool feature because it changes up the gameplay of Temple Run that already basically just consists of running and temples. There's also these minecart sections now, which I don't remember from the original game, but maybe I'm just making that up. But beyond that, that's basically all this game has to offer. While I was recording this, I even backed out of the game to make sure that I was playing the sequel because it is just that similar. The graphics have that same slightly cursed look to them. You still play this game by tilting your device, which is an awesome feature to have in 2025. And although this game doesn't do much different, I guess it doesn't really have to because it is still a fun game and it objectively is better than the original Temple Run. It's also objectively better than Malaria, so I don't know if that's saying much.